Last Concordia, the Gaming and Lotteries Amendment Bill 2019. I'm happy to speak on this important bill here this evening. I absolutely accept that we urgently need to address the expanding problem of gambling, and specifically online gambling addiction that is such a plague to so many families in our country today and tonight, and every time you know that people, even at work, in their bedrooms, in their kitchens, from anywhere, they can just, where heretofore they have to go to a casino, whether it be a slot machine or whether it be back in the day, or whether it be go to an office to gamble, they can do it in the privacy and the secrecy of their own home or their workplace, and that has to be a huge, huge, huge concern. The complete availability and ability to gamble huge sums of money secretly, quietly, and within minutes, if not seconds. I want also to salute the work carried out by ASHRE in the town of Clare, and Sister Eileen, the founder there, and his sister organisation, the Ashling Centre in Ballyraggett in Kilkenny, which a brainchild of Sister Eileen Fahy as well, and indeed Sister Veronica Mangan led the charge there, and I was involved in fundraising and at steering committee meetings to set up that centre for adolescents at the time, back probably 20 years ago now almost. And anytime I meet them since and inquire about how it is doing and how it's going, well, we at the time, the thought process was that it was just for 15, 16-year-olds, maybe 17, 18-year-olds, and that age group. Now we find that they're dealing with problems from 10, 11 and 12-year-olds, and maybe even younger. And it's a shocking indictment on our society that, that ASHRE is a wonderful facility, and many persons has recovered there, thanks to Sister Eileen and company, and indeed the board of directors there and the volunteers. But Ashling was set up to deal with that cohort of young people, and now to think that it younger and younger is getting as each passing year, and that is more on through a road chain. It's very, very, very sad. But we need serious examination, Minister, of what's gone wrong, or why this proliferation of gambling is going on. And I don't think this piece of legislation is dealing adequately with this situation. They've done, the Ashling Centre and the ASHRE have done so much to restore people on their journey into recovery from addictions of all kinds. Indeed, there are many. There are many. Indeed, I have to declare, my wife might say that politics, often says my wife, that politics is a form of addiction not yet classified by the World Health Organization. And she could be right, Minister, because it certainly is. And she says now it's bad enough one in the family, but our daughter has just got into politics and got elected to the county council. Well, so she said we're not taking the medication, but that's, and when I make jocose about that, I don't mean to be jocose or flippant about legislation and the problem. I don't, but that's what, and she is a qualified psychiatric nurse, my good wife. I said they've done so much to restore people's on their journey into recovery from addictions of all kinds, and I mean all kinds, and all kinds of traumatic, desperate, sad, and tragic situations of where people, while there might be alcohol or other drugs now, it happens in quietly and succinctly and behind closed doors, or not even behind closed doors, maybe in a family situation where the wife or the spouse or the partner or whoever didn't realise or have any understanding to the extent that the gambling addiction was, or vice versa. It may be the husband either and didn't know how serious this gambling problem was. And his statistics and information from spunout.ie revealed that there is believed to be 40,000 people in Ireland who have gambling addiction. And I say those figures are modest and indeed not even accurate or up to date. In addition to these statistics, over 5 billion a year is gambled. 5 billion a year. We talk about the onset of Brexit and difficulties of Brexit, and we talk about the money now that's needed and will be needed to deal with the climate change and everything else. 5 billion a year is gambled, which turns out to be approximately 10,000 per minute every day. 10,000 euro per minute every day. And that's what's, according to these official figures, I believe to be far more. because it's an industry and it's an issue that so much of it is under the radar and so much behind closed doors, as I said, in the bedrooms and workplaces and everything else. I believe it could be, that might be the tip of the iceberg, but approximately 10,000 per minute every day, 60 minutes in the hour, and you know, it's mind-boggling. It has also been found that Ireland has the third highest per capita rating in the world for losses in gambling. That's a staggering figure. We were known as the Ireland of saints and scholars and the Ireland of 1,000 welcomes, Céad Míle Fáilte. But now to be known here, recognised worldwide as Ireland that has the third highest per capita rating in the world for losses in gambling. For losses. So someone is making money somewhere. Last year, Ireland losses from gambling totalled up to be over 2.1 billion. Top of that, and the 5 billion I said earlier. Just think about it. It's just staggering, shocking, disbelief, the figures. Last year, Ireland's losses from gambling totalled up to be 2.1 billion. That's what's recognised, and that's what's put in paper, and that's what's a guesstimate as to what it was, but I believe much more. The most popular method of gambling is online gambling, with almost half of the gambling losses coming from it, while the second most popular method of gambling is traditional betting. And traditional betting, you know, for all its faults and favours, I remember we'd be setting the sports in springtime on the Grand National and beyond, and we'd be having the tea, and we might get a chance, one of us to cycle on a bike with a bet to the betting office to put on a bet on a Grand National, whether they want here or whether they want in Aintree, and simple things like that. But now you have the device in your hand, young people, old people, all kinds of people, and they can bet there within, just press a button and the bet is taken. So there's no kind of effort really to have to go to any great effort or any great consideration. And if you are down and if you're depressed and if you have lost a lot, you're under great hope that the next one will come right. Like the machines, slot machines. And I was often there as a Buccalogue in Bray and in different places in Youghal, in your own town, Minister, and indeed Ardmore and places. And we're very only once a year, and we'd be on the flutter, we'd be giving the machine a shake, knocking the coins or whatever, but shin scale, that was simplistic and it was addictive. But now this deadly tool here, and maybe we're lucky in many ways. I'm always lamenting the lack of broadband, but maybe we're lucky, or some families are spared and lucky that broadband doesn't extend into their homes, and that it's not able to be wipe out a whole family and a whole livelihood and a whole mortgage and a whole building up of a huge, family home. Gambling, as I said, is easily accessible, especially when Ireland has approximately, this is approximate figures, 1,100 bookmakers shops, 19 private member clubs, casinos, 122 licensed gaming arcades, and over 10,000 gaming machines. And their records, I'm sure they've come from the libraries here and statistics, I believe it to be much, much more. They're all the ones that are registered and that are meant to be legal. I'm more concerned about all the underhand and ones that are going on. And when you see young lads now of 14, 15, 16, and maybe women as well, but going out playing Gaelic football and hurling or Pell and Naman, and bets have been placed on each other about scores and first score and winning of games and all. It's frightening, it's shocking, and it's devastating. It's time we woke up and smelled the coffee and see what's going on here. As I said, that's the figures that I have quoted out. 1,100 bookmakers shops, 19 private members clubs, casinos, 122 licensed gaming arcades, and over 10,000 gaming machines. And I think it's sad in towns like my own towns of Clonmel and Tipperary Town and Carrick-on-Shore, and indeed Neenah and Roscrea and Timbermore and all the others, and indeed Care, when you see shops closing down, proliferation of them, and when you see new premises being painted and decorated, and then you realise it's a betting office. Sad, and they're often located quite close or adjacent to a public bar. I think it's serious. As Minister Staunton said in his report in March of this year, devising and implementing a modern licensing and regulatory regime for Irish gambling industry presents this state with a significant challenge. I fully concur with those words, and I don't think it's a significant challenge. I think it's a massive challenge of scale that we have no understanding of. As I said, when you have these yokes here, and when they want them for their first communes, and later on, and it's a case of parental control, I know, but and when they can get such, such impulsive and such lucrative, offers, and then they get into all kinds of trouble. The Minister correctly noted that the industry is large, growing and evolving from a largely land-based manifestation to an online one. And that therein lies the difficulties. We could deal with the land-based, and as I said, and the individual speakers about superintendents and Garda Síochána and could check, but online, you don't know what's happening. And we see, and I'm not going to mention any court cases, but we see the issues of the horrible stuff that's coming online and the actions that young people are encouraged to do. It's just shocking and devastating. Despite that, we're currently applying a mid-20th century approach to gambling activities that have changed significantly in nature and are increasingly digital in format and conducted online, as I said, from the secrecy of the home or the bedroom, or indeed a shed, or indeed some quiet place in any town or street or town. The Gambling Control Bill, the Gaming and Lotteries Amendment Bill 2019, the bill, however, has now, as we know, intended to provide for some urgent clarifications and amendments to the Gaming and Lotteries Act 1956, the 1956 Act, 2 years before I was born. So that's tell you how much out of date. And I compliment you, Minister Staunton, in trying to do something with it. An act is so out of date. 1956. I'm Shashka, Blaine, Ickfoss, and 2 years before I was born was the last act. This is a shame on all governments, especially in the last 30 years, because this has been incrementally catching up on us here and destroying lives and attacking us like a cancer. The amendments proposed in the bill primarily concern improving the regulations of gaming and lotteries, including the updating of stakes and prize limits. The bill is an interim reform measure, and many of the reforms it proposes may be suspended by the comprehensive reforms contemplated in proposed gambling control bill, and I welcome that if they are. It's an initial start, and Tasakma Lana Hibra, but Tarshi Rodenak. I have to say I'm in complete agreement with the Minister when, on announcing the bill, Minister said he was particularly anxious to address the issue of underage gambling. An epidemic. I alluded to it earlier about the phones and the availability of them. As I understand it, this bill therefore proposes to standardise the minimum age at which a person can take part in gaming and lottery activities under the 1956 Act at 18 years of age. The bill also proposes to amend the Total Isaator Act 1929 to provide for a minimum age of 18 years for betting on the toad. This brings the gaming and lotteries and the Total Isaator regime into line with the age limits for betting under the Betting Act 1931, and that's badly needed also, because we need to get real here and get into the real situation, not talking situations that are archaic and well outdated. I also want to acknowledge the issues surrounding enforcement, and I am very concerned about, and Deputy Pringle referred to it, Section 4 of the bill, that the Garda Superintendent can grant a licence. There's huge concerns over that, because not only will the Superintendent become targets for lobbying, it brings into question, how the ordinary rank and file Gardaí, we haven't enough of them, and they're overburdened as it is, how are they going to enforce the issues of licences that have been obtained through the courts or wherever, and then if the Garda Superintendent can give these licences. I believe this to be, a retrograde step, and while it might cut down in paperwork, the Garda Superintendent has more than enough to do with at the moment to deal with, all kinds of behaviours, all kinds of manpower enforcement, and all enforcement issues, and all kinds of tax on our people, or public without being in a situation that they can grant licences. This is fraught with dangers because it's such a lucrative and has such a bad underbelly and kind of order about it that they can be all lobbied, and I respect the vast majority of superintendents. They've all served us well. But I've seen situations in my own area where a superintendent and inspector level granted a licence for a shooting range that has no planning permission, has no proper scrutiny, and I think that these things need to be they're fraught with dangers, and we need to be able to have recourse to proper planning and development, and these situations should never be granted.
Just coming to my attention that you said that a superintendent granted a licence where there was no planning permission.
Yeah.
Now, that's a serious allegation, because I'm quite sure it's possible to identify that person, and you're a long-standing member of this House, and you should know that you do not name or identify.
No, I'm just making the correlation around where...
No, but you've stated what you believe to be a fact.
It was a fact,
yeah, well, perhaps.
And it happened, but I'm just saying that...
And there was no planning permission.
No, there was still no planning permission. And the licence has been revoked 2 days ago, thankfully. I'm just making the point that pressures can be, and they can be inadvertently. I'm not saying it's done deliberately, but it's inadvertently planning.
That's different.
No, not different. I mean, planning was, or a licence was granted without any planning, and look, you have to go through all procedures. So, I'm just trying to illustrate my point that this shouldn't be put in the role of Garda superintendents. It should be a proper due process planning permission that should be advertised and go through the normal channels where people can make submissions and everything else. As the bill digest makes clear, the primary responsibility for the enforcement of the Gaming and Lotteries Act 56 falls to An Garda Síochána, which I alluded to. But serious questions about the enforcement of the legislation have been raised already. I said that they're Anna know her fault in the Garda Síochána, and I salute them and support them all my life. But they're very busy people, and they can't be in every corner or and they need the support of the public as well. No police force in the world can support the public. So, as I said, serious questions have been raised. It's been noted that the most fundamental regulatory requirements are routinely ignored. And I quote, speaking to Seanad and Senator David Norris said the following, I quote, "The Gaming and Lotteries Act 1956 has been flagrantly broken in every single part of the country." These are not my words, this is a quote, and this is on a Senate record. "Operators are being allowed to openly break the law. Tens of millions of euros in licence fees, monies, which could be much needed in addiction services, are not being collected. Tens of millions of euros." And he's in the other house, the upper house, much longer than I'm here. Surely this is something, I'm still quoting, that we need to urgently address once and for all. You may have been in the Senate when he said that, Minister. I would only say that, generally speaking, it is to be hoped that neither this bill nor future bills will overly be punitive in terms of small betting shop owner, which we recognise and we know, and we will face to that. We must accept that addiction issues aside, most adults act responsibly when it comes to gambling, and do not get so deep into trouble, thankfully, that they need addiction treatment services. We've allowed them to be accommodated also. And I have to say, Minister, and there's a plethora of them up and down the country, and the Seesaw in my own town of Clonmel, and many other all over the country, are grappling every day on a voluntary basis. And, taxi watching, suicide watching, name them. There's so many agencies and so many private persons as well who are offering counselling services out there for free, and trying to help people to deal with all these huge catastrophic events that have grown on people silently, secretly, incrementally, and taking people's lives over. And look, we're plagued, Minister, with suicides in the town of Carrick-on-Suir recently, and in the whole South Tipperary area, and we don't have the resources either. So many of these are for drug deaths to people and for gambling deaths to people who have inadvertently sleepwalked into, and we need decisive and cohesive and dedicated responses from compassionate counselling services, and also then when people don't avail of that or don't want to avail of that, we must have the full rigours of the law come down on the people, the the real, bands that are just peddling in misery, making huge profits, but causing devastation on people's lives and families, and their young people and their grandchildren and families to come. So I hope that this bill will go some way to deal with this, and look forward to engaging constructively with your Minister and your department on this.